Welcome to the Town of Richmond meeting of the Water and Sewer Commission, April 20th, 2026. I almost said January. Public comments? No public comments. Are there any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? Nope. All right, we're moving right along. First thing up is approval of minutes from, I've already forgot, a week ago, the 13th, I guess.
The 6th. We didn't have a meeting last week.
Well, that's
2 weeks
right.
ago.
The 6th. Okay, I'm sorry.
All good.
Any comments? No.
Really well.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve the minutes for the meeting of April 6th, 2026.
Morgan, this is David. I'll second.
Okay. All right, Greg made a motion. David seconded. Any further discussion? Please state your name and your vote.
Aaron, aye.
David, aye.
Greg, aye. Morgan, aye. Motion passes. Next up, purchase orders. I think we have one purchase order.
Purchase order for engineering for the Tilden Bridge Street, Cochran Road Waterline project, bid phase through post-construction to East Engineering.
Any questions?
What is the anticipated construction cost of that project?
This one, the bid came in at about 1.4 and change million.
Okay.
We thought it was going to be 1.9.
We had a bond for 1.9
Okay.
and it's like 1.4 something million. So fairly appropriate engineering fee. I think it's within the allowable curve.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I'm getting an education on that.
You thinking about going back into business? All right. Any other comments or discussions? So if somebody'd like to make a motion.
Okay, I will move that we approve the purchase order. I don't have a purchase order number.
5379 in the amount of 180.
In the amount of $180,000.
Have a second?
Morgan, this is David. I'll second that.
David Sanders seconds.
Oh,
Any further discussion? No further discussion. Please state your calling for a vote. Please state your name and your vote.
Greg?
Aaron, aye.
David, aye.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right. Moving right along, we have warrants. See, warrant number 22895, check warrant report number 22895 in the amount of $35,171.19. Anybody like to make a motion?
This is Aaron. I'll move to pass the warrants as presented.
Morgan, this is David. I'll second the motion to pass the warrants as presented.
Seconds the motion. Any further discussion? No further discussion. Please calling for a vote. Please state your name and how you're voting.
Aaron, aye.
David, aye.
Greg? Aye.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes. All right.
There we go.
All right. That. Okay, next up. Consideration of approving the step 2 agreement with Hoyle Tanner for engineering for the 20-year study.
turn it over to John.
John?
Okay. Hey, good to see you all again. So I brought Paul Hobbs with me. You might have heard his name. He's the project manager on the wastewater project. Kirsten's away on vacation, so I thought it was a good opportunity to bring, Aiden's also not available for tonight. He's actually at the Boston Marathon. So I told Duncan and Josh earlier, but welcome, Paul. Thanks. Where we are right now. So as you know, a couple months ago, we were in here and we said, let's wait to get the DEC's review of the contract submitted. That was, we sent this in last October, I believe, was the initial upload. And it took quite a while. We just got comments back from Lynette about an hour or two ago in an email. So for the most part, where her review stood as some of the items that we put in the non-standard category, she's proposing to move up into the standard. Beyond proposing, she has that capability. So this is what the SRF program will fund, or will, where they categorize things, and what would be eligible for the loan reimbursement. What that does is, when, the way we had it structured, everything from the town on this contract would be eligible for SRF loan funding. But now with the items that she moved back into standard, that will put some of the fee outside of the loan eligibility. So that's in the guidance documents 33. I brought a copy of it in case anybody wants to see it, but basically the last sentence in the guidance document is: disallowed engineering fees will need to be funded locally or from other funding sources.
Yeah, if you have, I don't know if you have copies.
I can hand it around.
I might have it. If I can get that around now.
Yeah.
Is this from?
That's WIDS, that's the Water Investment Division, the DEC's guidance document number 33.
When did that come?
Yeah, I don't.
That's posted on their website.
Oh, it's okay. It didn't look familiar to me. It's something that I saw.
It's how they calculate.
Would it be helpful to pull the large spreadsheet that you have with that?
Can you just give us an example of something that she moved into standard?
Sure.
Just
Yeah, I've got.
so I can get an idea of what we're.
So the 3D scan of buildings for base plans, in the narrative, you all had copies of the narrative that we prepared with that, right? So that was, described as needed because it helps to get the location of every single pipe and elevate within existing buildings. And when the existing drawings are not something you want to move forward with, it would be the effort for that pays dividends long. So it's on. Oh,
So I
okay,
think-
you're starting to screen share.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take a
Yeah,
look
it's them.
because I think this was that.
So that was 16,500. The funding assistance, we had already said that would not be eligible for SRF. So you can't use federal funds to try and get more other. So, so that's one though that is worth it, for the community to try to offset the cost as much as possible, or find the right avenues like Vermont Bond Bank or USDA RD program. But that was one of the ones that are off. The permitting is another thing that she moved up, permitting analysis. So what we have is it's a not to exceed fee. If you need to get a stormwater permit for this project, which we're hopeful you don't, that would be something that we would use to do the analysis that you have to submit. That's not standard. Like, it's a wastewater engineering project. When you start to get into levels beyond conveyance, beyond typical just moving stormwater, that's already in the design. That doesn't change. But when you have to run all the different scenarios for an operational stormwater permit, if that were the case, that would be non-standard. So, but she moved it up, does not agree. The funding assistance, I'm sorry, not funding assistance, engineering multiple contracts was another one. So that's because we split the project into essentially 3 contracts. There's 2 that are going to be full bid packages, and then the third is town direct purchases. So really the first 2 are the ones where it impacts our design. So when you have to, each time you submit, you're submitting 2 sets of plans, because each plan set needs to act individually. One is going to be bid in FY 28, I believe. Yeah, so let's say 2027, next year. So one's going to be bid next year, and then the other we have scheduled for 5 years out. That was to help with the user rate analysis, and we have that structured in there. But that means that we have to have 2 separate set of specs, 2 separate set of plans. That was the effort in order to help support that. So these are the components that got moved up. I think that's it. Does that make sense, Steve?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
the other 2, or I'm sorry, 2 more. From the step 1, we had, in the amendment number 2 from step 1, we had
It's up here, I think.
the public outreach of 42,000 and the sewer use ordinance review and recommendations for 26,000, which we haven't done the sewer use ordinance yet. those were services that we had in non-standard, and she moved those into standard.
So that means that standard's gonna go over the allowable cost curve, but if they had stayed in non-standard, they would still be eligible for the loan?
Eligible for the loan, but doesn't go towards the fee curve, correct?
Okay, so now that they're moving up, once you get over that curve, the loan doesn't cover that, so we have to find other ways to fund it.
Correct.
Okay.
And what's that total?
So she has in her spreadsheet that she sent to Josh, 155, but it's actually, there was a couple things missing. She did not have the funding assistance moved up. It just is missing. And then the expenses of 6,300. So she's missing 26,500. So it would be a total of 181,000 approximately that is considered non-eligible.
So I'm gonna plead ignorant here because I've come to the commission since you've started this work. Help me understand so I can explain to people who ask me some of the components of that. For instance, the $60,000 for architectural fees. If we're working within the existing structure, what kind of scope of work is an architect going to have related to this project? And similarly, the archaeological examination, if we're not expanding the footprint or moving into, breaking new ground, is that something coming from the state or?
For good news on archaeological is oftentimes we don't have to use that. Oftentimes we don't spend that 5,500. It's only if the state, after we submit the EID, if SHPO says you need to run a phase 1A analysis for the site, and then that's what that is. So oftentimes we don't use that bucket.
So the scope of work may anticipate improvements beyond the outfall of the plant, between the plant and the river, or?
Okay, so yeah, so the historic archaeological is for within the footprint of the project. And that's why we usually get a clearance from SHPO to say, this is pre-disturbed land, you don't need to do it, but we're required to put it in the contract as like a placeholder in case it needs to get used. But I'm hopeful that at least that small fee won't be used.
So right now is there a fee for that? I'm looking at this line.
5,500.
Is that?
It's in the non-standard. Currently you're in the step 1, so you gotta go down further.
Oh, it's in step 2.
Yep.
Non-standard.
And then there's abatement study right above abatement study. There's 250.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about step 2 tonight, right? So.
Correct.
And similarly with the architectural, can you help me understand that?
And Paul, you want to speak to architecture because you helped to get that scope?
Yeah, I mean, we're renovating the main building. There's windows and there's architect has to do code review and re-roofing, perhaps re-roofing and windows. And there is architectural scope. We've cut it way back. There's going to be a new lab, maybe new bathrooms. We've cut that back. But part of that is, did that include or we pull out that was part of the scan? The architect did the building scan we were talking about.
Scan came out, but the plan development's probably still in there.
Yeah.
So
they have to do drawings. We have new stairs. There's new egress, code reviews. It doesn't seem like there's architectural drawings like you might have for a house. But
I'm just trying to understand. Yeah.
Absolutely.
there's a new storage and maintenance garage, new sludge dewatering building extension, new dewatered sludge trailer room, and then the screening building, which is on top of one of the existing tanks, right? So,
which the screening building might not happen, but
Yeah,
you're
there's-
exactly
I
right.
thought the screening building went away.
this is in this one PR.
But that includes, a lot of it is the renovation work to the main habitable area of the building. There's new HVAC, new electrical, new ventilation, and the architect has components in that.
We don't have sufficient record drawings that would allow them to sidestep the need for doing a 3D scan of the building. Do we have?
They have the originals and they have the ones that they did in 2003.
The scanning already happened.
That already happened.
Yeah, and they already did the scanning.
Pre-approved, to keep the project moving. I will say, would this happen to us on a recent project where we thought the record drawings were record drawings? And there was incorrect pipe elevations throughout that caused problems that we had to update the design into the design. The 3D scan avoids that potential issue. It's a good valued investment.
Yeah, I can see the utility of it. I'm just, scratching my head over, we've got to go find this extra money. Is there any part of this that we could mitigate? But
So I'm with you on that. I mean,
yeah,
So some of it you do, so you have a CDS grant. So you have a almost $1.5 million CDS grant that anything that's outside the fee curve is eligible within the CDS grant. So that can cover it. Oftentimes what communities will do is use their grant money first. So use their grant money to pay off engineering services. That's what Bartlett Bay did. Their entire CDS grant of $800,000 on the Bartlett Bay project in South Burlington was used to pay off the engineering services. It's a pretty flexible grant program in that regards.
Remind me what CDS stands for.
Congressionally directed spending.
Yeah.
But does that sorry, we should get to Aaron. I had a question.
I'm sorry, Aaron. I keep ignoring you.
It's hard when they're done Zoom.
Saw here and I saw further up about like an asbestos abatement fees, and then down here I see abatement study. And I guess I'm a little shocked that you haven't done any testing yet. That seems like that is the perfect age building to be covered in asbestos.
We haven't.
I don't know where else it says abatement fees. Does it say somewhere else?
Building, oops, stop where you are. Number 69, building material testing. And then down right underneath the one we were talking about, there was a 5,500 for asbestos.
So, sorry. Yeah. Thanks, Aaron. Good question. Those
90.
If you hang it right there around 68 through 72, rows 68 through 72, those are from the base PCS spreadsheet. This is the project cost summary spreadsheet that is from the DEC. They have some of these services written in there, but there's no fee. So if you pan Josh to the right, we didn't use those in that step one phase.
Okay.
So they're just a name of a type of service that may be used on a project, but it wasn't put into this project. The abatement study is where we put it in the step two services. It could go either in step one or step two. We're doing it down here. Does that make sense?
It does. And I guess I feel like that's something that it seems to me that we should probably either have done or do before we have a final cost for what it's going to cost to build this building, because that building was built in the 70s. I mean, there's a pretty good chance that like the floor tile throughout all that building has asbestos mastic. Like that could be a really expensive hurdle that we get after we have gone to the voters.
I would be surprised if we didn't do an assessment in the last upgrade in 2004. Can we check to see if that was done before we commit to doing it again?
yeah, I thought we were going to look into that when we got the VOSHA thing, but they kicked that one to the curb on us, right?
Yeah, the feedback I got from Project WorkSafe was, before you do a major project, make sure you get a study. And I haven't seen one from the last 20-year
But
study.
it would be worth it.
Yeah,
It would have been on the burner, would it not? In
Aaron's
2000.
Aaron's correct. Anything built in the early 70s, chances are would have asbestos, not only for insulation, but materials. Floor tiles were all asbestos based until I think 78. So chances are there was asbestos used in the initial construction. I don't know if any of it would have been abated or not, but we should have records on that.
Maybe just one comment to that as well, that you can go over top of asbestos as well with another.
As long as you seal it. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Yeah, and we're not doing heavy renovations on this project. It's
Replacing equipment.
just mostly replacing equipment.
We had more architectural scope in there that actually has come down from where it was.
So John, clarify that for me, because I am the child of someone that does asbestos abatement as his business. So I was under the impression that if you had to like even cut a hole in the floor and there was asbestos, that section would have to be abated in order for you to work in there with it. And if you're replacing equipment, you'd probably have to cut into that. Like, is that not accurate?
No, that sounds accurate. I'm not an expert on asbestos or hazardous waste. That's why we hire that part out. And we typically do it at this point in the project in the 30% design. And that's why we also hold the bond vote until after 30% design. And the estimate is refined at that point to account for things like that. So, that would be if there is asbestos tile, that would be part of what they would flag out as to what needs to be done as part of the project.
Most likely in the office, because part of the plant's just exposed concrete floor.
It's mostly that center. Everything like the garage and the headworks building, those were all added in 2003. The center building, where the lab is and where the office is, and the floors below that. Well, it's just in the office, and the lab. Every floor below that is concrete. So,
but it'd be good to know, right?
yeah, no, I'm not saying no.
Unless it's already done, if we can find, and I'll check with Kirsten, maybe
I think we should but my feeling is that was off limits in the 2003 upgrade. So my feeling was it didn't get done
Okay.
because basically nothing was touched in the lab, nothing was touched in that center structure.
Right.
Yeah.
Otherwise our influent pumps would have been done.
Okay.
But we will be moving forward. We will be doing in this upgrade something in those areas.
Yeah, we're talking about cutting a hole in the floor to make so we can have an access hatch to the basement, so we can lift and lower things without, sticking stuff through windows.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, we would be doing something. And at this point, it would be good to know and have a record, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have already. Yeah.
So this is just for the study, just so everyone, we haven't done that yet. Obviously, we haven't done too much yet. This is to call clay point. We usually clay point comes out and they take samples all the way around. They look for asbestos and lead. And we're wondering about PCBs. Lynette mentioned something in her response to us about PCBs. We're going to need to see whether we need to include that. But that's about the same number we use for Bartlett Bay, which is much bigger footprint.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say will be less, but we feel like that's a good number. That's a good placeholder.
Yeah.
And it might be less. Again, we only value what clay point sends us, and then we forward it on.
Okay. But it is a good point. If there's asbestos in it and you're cutting a hole in the floor, then you have to have an abatement of that area to.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just to decide whether, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be some amount of cost to do the abatement during construction, but it's not
Right.
the magnitude of
The whole
project
building.
that we have.
Right.
Yeah. Fits in that contingency pretty easily.
And other projects the abatement has been done by the owner. So it's not necessarily part of the insurance policy or the liability or the whole thing that goes along with the contractor for the new plant. So we do the study, get the report back, and then
Down to
Burlington, for
size.
example, we'll hire someone to come in and do the abatement. So it's clear for when the contractor comes in.
Right.
I'm not saying that's what we do, but that's what we should do here, but that's just keeps it completely out of this loop.
Right.
That's why there's not a line item in the construction cost for abating the building at the moment. There's only a line item for
The study.
The study.
Okay.
Maybe prudent to keep that offline just so that bidding subcontractors and stuff all don't have to have the necessary certifications, but yeah, otherwise it's your left pocket or your right, really, in it.
Right. Right. Does that sound good, Aaron?
Yes.
Right.
Good call.
Thank you. Okay, sorry. So where are we?
Yeah, I mean, happy to answer any other questions about the move or other parts of this or other parts of our fee. Get the full printout too of talk about how we come up with our hours. It's laborious and it's based on a lot of experience in doing these.
Apparently didn't download your fee proposal, but can you tell me what the step two phase step two agreement fee is and
Total.
where we stand right now and estimated construction cost?
The total fee for step two is $869,844 in the contract. And construction cost is $10 million. Let me get it to, it's at the PCS. Let's say.
The construction cost of contract one, because contract 1 and 2 together are closer to 20, I think.
Well, with contingency. So with contingency, it's 17 million. But without the fee curve is calculated on no contingency. So a portion of contingency always comes up. So plan on, a project that includes the contingency cost. That's why we do all the funding scenarios are run with contingency built in. As we go through design, there will be things to add in. Yeah, so the current, it's a little over 10 million in the non-contingency. Yes.
Yeah, okay. I mean, 70% contingency is pretty steep, but so
that's a good point. No, that doesn't matter.
That's not what.
Because I also have the pump station project in it for contracts too, and manhole covers in contract 1.
It's about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
how are we situated? We have grant funds to cover this, or?
So we've got the CDS grant, Congressionally Directed Spending grant, that could be which is what, 1.4, 1.5 million.
1.467.
And that's primarily focused at septage receiving and processing. And then the rest of it is through the CWSRF loan, which is what's going to pay for, or will help us pay for the engineering and the construction. And that's where when we get into the different funding scenarios, it's either CWSRF at like a 2% fee, I think, or we've also been looking at a straight bond bank loan because that's when you can do the deferral on that. So that's a part of the thing we'll be talking about in the next tonight.
You're also talking to USDA RD and had some good early indication. If they're the reason that you may want to go there, if they have grant eligibility tied to it, they historically have had for a community that qualifies with MHI, which your census designated place, the CDP for Richmond does, qualifies up to 40%, but they have not had that amount of grant funding available. I was told recently maybe 10%, which would be amazing. That'd be another $1 million you could try to capture. So we are talking to them right now as they've had some staff turnover. That's another avenue that we're looking into. Josh, I don't know if I've even put you in on that.
NBRC or
USDA RD, and then there's also the NDRC that we started putting together some of the paperwork for. That was what Lily was helping you with, right?
Right, and then there was also BRIC that we were looking at, but that might be a next
pump
year.
Stations.
I think we needed more design, so we're chasing a few other grant opportunities right now, but I think we're a little bit early in the design phase right now for a few of them.
Yeah, BRIC needs. I get past that. Yeah, so. That's why the funding assistance for $20,200 that is not SRF eligible helps you get those services to try to find potentially other millions of dollars in support for the project.
Okay. And the drawdown on this, is this going to occur over the course of a year, or how's this
a year and a half to 2 years?
Okay.
Yeah, it would be depending. I think we have it scheduled for 18 months, maybe even a little less, because for this project, I think there's less variables on some of the permitting aspects.
Yeah.
We're ready to go as well. Like, so some projects were in this phase and we're kind of cranking up and getting going, but we've been really ready to go for this for a while. So that's why I think it'll go a little quicker. I think we're scheduled for a spring bond vote. So we'll have our 30% or even 60% done by that time. You'll have to her point, to have really good numbers of what it really will cost, short of a bid from anyone.
Yeah,
So
I don't know if you're experiencing any difficulty on holding estimates over that kind of time horizon
Yeah.
in the current
Been difficult.
situation, but the sooner we can get this locked down, probably the better for the ratepayers.
Aside from yes, there was a little bit of stabilization starting to occur, and then the oil prices just disrupted it again. So, but you're absolutely right. Like that's been a large part of many projects are trying to move quickly, because the cost inflation has just continued to go up.
All right.
So what are you guys gonna do with this step two? 'Cause I think we're looking for, because you guys need to keep the project moving forward.
Yeah.
Seems like we're getting closer with the state on getting final sign off for step two. But you would like an approval to move step two forward so that you can keep the study moving without having to wait for the state, which is getting closer, but has taken months.
So what I'd like to do is, sign the full contract, which is this, the EGCDC contract. And then all that continues to happen with the state is to work out those buckets. Like, so what they think in terms of buckets, like, so in the DEC cert that you probably have a copy of, or that PCS, that spreadsheet, how you name it and where you put it, whether you put it up here in non-standard or standard or down non-standard, but it's the same contract. This doesn't change from any of that stuff that we're doing in sorting it out with the DEC for their SRF funding.
So this is for the whole 860,000, right? Less 70,000. I guess we've already approved.
That you've already approved,
70,000.
but well, all we've done on that is held it in a bucket, like, so, or in our accounting system, we haven't opened up the project number to be able to send you an invoice yet. So, yeah, we'd like to get paid back for doing some work.
Right.
But yeah, so it's ready to go.
and part of that was a survey for all the sites. So that was one reason we wanted to, we had the survey and we had the building scanning. I think we had the building scanning and the basic final design to move ahead, but then before that was an amendment for the survey, which is for the pump station and the plant and the manhole. So that's part of why I think that this got confused with Lynette and the people at the state, and because it was confusing to me, and John's kept it on track. It was one project, a 20-year study, you hear that term, and it split into the pump station. And now we're changing it. It's no longer the 20-year study. Now it's the main water plant. And it's really stretching. I've said this to a bunch of people. It's really stretching the ability of the PCS, which is that big spreadsheet that you had up there, to be a useful tool. That's not made to like split and subdivide and like amoeba splitting off into multiple little projects. And then with multiple funding coming back, it's really stretching the ability that Lynette had other issues. She had other concerns. But I thought that was where it all started from. I may or may not have been right about that, but I was like, we'll work through this because we just need to figure it all out with regards to the PCS, which I think is broken down a little bit on this project because it's split apart. Yeah, we haven't changed.
Let's wait for questions.
Okay, you're good. You're letting me talk, John. Now I gotta go.
It's good, no? Good information. So we're at a point of making a motion to approve the Hoyle Tanner, what are we gonna call this?
It'd be the step 2 design phase agreement.
Step two, design phase agreement. Do we need to put an amount in here?
I think we should.
I think you should.
Yeah, what was it's split into two things on the agreement, right? I was looking,
I think the totality is still 869, 840.
that.
844.
44.
For preciseness, and Morgan, it probably should also, I said step 2 design phase agreement for the Richmond wastewater treatment facility.
Inclusive of the new pump station.
No, that's a separate, we haven't
Oh,
prepared that.
that's only in the construction dollars. That's not in the design fee.
Correct, yes.
All right. Mr. Chair, this is Greg. I move to approve the step 2 agreement for the Richmond wastewater treatment plant with engineering firm Hoyle Tanner for the 20-year study, design fees and other itemized elements here.
In the amount of
in the amount of $869,844.00.
Okay, do I have a second?
This is David. I'll second.
David seconds. Aaron, I'm sorry, go ahead. Further discussion?
Was wondering a little bit about how we were voting to spend this money that we don't have, and we don't have a plan of where it's coming from yet.
It will ultimately be reimbursed through the state loan program.
Okay.
And right now, we've already submitted and received some money for work to date on that program. So once we get, and that's where we're in like the final stages of the state signing off. So once they sign off on that, it will start to submit invoices to the state as well. But that's where we're, I think, once she's got a couple more questions, we're trying to finalize with her, and then we're done with the state. And then that money will be reimbursed.
Morgan,
And
this is Dave.
Hoyle Tanner can wait until we get that okay from the state.
I'd like to bill for the services that we already spent for the scanning of the building. But yeah, there'll be a delay before we're able to invoice for upcoming services that we haven't started yet. Yeah, good question. Yeah, Aaron, we can work with you on that a little bit too. But I think that'll all be in place prior to the next invoice that comes in.
The
Morgan.
$1.67 million grant, that's not in pocket. I thought we had that.
We have it approved, but is any of this eligible for that grant yet? Because it's all on the septage side. Can you
So
drop the
it's
link to that
approved,
grant?
but you haven't done the agreement with, it's probably gonna be somebody from the EPA that will be appointed to you. So that's the next steps. And I can work with you when that time comes. I've gone through it with South Burlington. And it's a pretty easy process once we get there, some paperwork to do and close that the agreement between the federal government.
Gotcha. Okay. And then we can start to build towards that grant.
Yes.
Okay.
You submit your reimbursements towards that grant. Yep.
Yeah, right. Sorry.
So we have an invoice that you'd like to submit, or maybe it's submitted, we need to pay for the work you've already done. And then we have, by signing this, we'll start the process, but we don't expect to see invoices until the state revolving fund has been.
That's fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aaron, does that answer?
We have
Yes.
Okay. David?
Yeah, Morgan, I was just questioning whether we were
can't hear
okay
you,
as a,
David.
oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My fault.
Okay. I was just questioning whether the board was comfortable authorizing that amount at this point.
Well,
Honestly, I don't like doing it until we know that we've gotten our grant, but I'm new to these things, so I
guess the question is this, is that we signed the contract, but and this is funded primarily through the state revolving fund? And do they need a signed contract before they approve it?
To do the loan portion.
To do
So the next step after this is we will help you prepare all the documents for the loan submission, so this first review closes out, and then the loan submission goes in. But that process is pretty fast. That's more what the state said.
But typically, the state would say, yes, the agreement looks good.
Mhm.
Then the commission would approve the agreement. Then we would get the loan agreement together. Sorry, the engineering agreement. In this case, we do have a little cart ahead of horse where we're asking the commission to approve it. Then the state will come in and do their thing, and then we'll get to the final loan agreement.
Yeah, and the burn rate on to what your question was before, Greg, like we want to get our available staff person working on preparing base plans. That's Sarah, right? And that would be, the time is right now, because if we assign her into another project, we lose it. So that's why we're pushing to get going on this project, both for Steve's sake and the amount of equipment you keep having to deal with, and for when the time is right, we move. So that's, but as far as Aaron, your question, like in concern about it, we're not going to be able to spend the $800,000. We need the 18 months for that. So the initial burn rate won't be to a point. Maybe we could still have it if you want to have like that next cap of like $50,000 and then we push the hold button if you haven't gotten full SRF closure on the loan.
Right, instead of, yeah.
I would feel more comfortable with that.
Yeah, but I'd like to have the whole agreement signed, and then we'll just, it's already on record right here that we will only expend up to 50,000 before the SRF program loan is cleared.
Yeah, maybe the motion should contingent upon moving past that contingent upon SRF approval.
Yeah, but I need a signed contract to
Right.
get our accounting side
So
moving.
I can amend the motion, but Steve's got.
I got one question. I thought we approved 70,000 a couple of weeks ago.
We did.
And I thought that was supposed to pay for the
Basis.
the scanning and stuff.
Yep.
So we've already approved the 70,000 for that, of which you said the bill was. You said it was like 8 or something.
No, I'm sorry if we're getting confused on something.
Okay.
So what we did is we opened up a number to hold the time that's been spent, but we haven't billed it yet because we don't have a contract with you signed. So once I get a signed contract, then we can prepare an invoice and submit it. But
So what was the 70,000 we approved for?
That was for,
I think the 70, I always remember 70 as the survey and the wetland study and the survey. But we did get approval for a certain amount of money that I can't remember. That was for the base of design and the building scanning. And Weeman Lanfear's done that, and they haven't actually billed us yet. So we don't actually have a bill. I didn't want to interrupt John. It's a little bit hypothetical, but they haven't sent us a bill just yet.
Do you remember that?
That was a step one.
I'm just trying to get
Survey.
my head around what we've already approved.
you know what? You might be right, Steve. I think we could probably continue doing work. We have not expended that full cap of the 70.
Yeah.
So we could still be operating. Why don't we think about it that way, is we're operating under the existing allowable cap, but I'd like to get the full contract signed so that we can start to bill up to that 70.
So the dilemma is there a chance that the SRF would not be approved?
No, at this point, because of the review on the PCS and where she has, as long as we agree to those terms,
Right.
and move forward, then
And part of those terms, we're moving this from the
non-standard.
Non-standard.
to the standard, and you made us aware of what those
Yeah.
conditions were.
And that the fact that we could potentially get that money from the CDS grant.
Yes.
Right, okay, so that's covered. And so then the next part of this is timing wise, we sign the agreement, you start working on design and the timing of getting this SRF approved in place and starting to receive invoices will mesh up to where we'll have cash flow to pay for those.
Yep, and for the design I have right now, I did bump out the dates to September 2026 for the 30% submission. And then 60% submission would be in January of 2027. And then 90% would be June of 2027. So, and then we'd be, after 90%, you're pretty much at the finish line with the WID process. So we'd be looking to bid it the fall of 2027 to start construction in 2028.
So could we, because if we sign this agreement, it's got the full 869 in it. Could we do, based on the motion tonight that I think they'll make, we do a separate letter that says, like, I signed the agreement per letter, and then we have a letter between the town and Hoyle Tanner that says up to $70,000 can be billed until the official approval from the state, and then once the state has issued approval, then we have another letter that says, okay, the full amount's open because the state has approved it.
Absolutely.
And that way we're not like bound to the 869 until the state approves it officially.
Yeah, I think that's
And that phases us in, it gets them what they need, it gives us a cap of 77. And then once the state comes in, and it's all in writing.
Right, now we have a clear understanding of what we're agreeing upon for signing this agreement.
I assume the contract has a termination clause in it, though.
It does.
So, I mean, if for some reason the project was canceled, either say the Fed just stops funding projects altogether, or some other maybe unlikely possibility, then As long as that's seen as legitimate cause for termination,
Mhm.
then we would just pay them expended fees up to that point. But
Fair point. Yeah.
I don't know, should I withdraw my motion or should we accept a friendly amendment from one of the other board members here to authorize Josh to set appropriate limits on the drawdown of that amount related to the issuance of the state
Letters of
grants of aid?
agreement. Yeah.
Somebody want to help me out here?
I mean,
I think it might be better to restate it.
Okay, so I'm gonna withdraw my motion.
Okay.
And
Greg's withdrawing his motion.
and the 70,000 we already approved for.
Right.
Right, but we haven't been billed for it yet.
No,
No, we're just trying to set an upend limit on how much they can spend in fees prior to us having state authorization.
right.
So
Yeah.
we have 869,000 some change here.
Yep.
We've agreed to, without having an agreement in place, to spend up to $70,000, but we're going to agree for this 869 and change, which includes the 70,000.
Right.
Right. So if we agree upon it, we're not spending more than that 869 plus 70.
Yeah, we don't want to get $500,000-$600,000 into this agreement and then
Right.
find out we don't really have a project.
Right.
So.
Correct.
All right, Greg, would you like to, now that you've withdrawn it, try it?
Okay. I'm
Round two.
gonna try this again, please.
In the 70, the current 70,000 spending cap
If you're comfortable with that, I would,
until the loan is is authorized from.
Yes, that's what
all
we're,
right. Mr. Chair, this is Greg. I move to approve the step 2 agreement with Hoyle Tanner for the engineering design of the Richmond wastewater treatment plant per the 20-year study in the amount of $869,844, subject to an initial limit pending of $70,000 pending agreement from the state.
agreement on the state revolving fund.
The state revolving fund or other grants and aids as the source of these funds.
Morgan, this is David. I'll second.
David, all right. Any further discussion, comments?
I found the agreement that we're all talking about. You're good. We can add a date to it. It's February 18th.
Okay, thank you.
You shouldn't have brought me.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay,
That was the 70,000. Okay.
if there's no further discussion,
Just yesterday.
if there's no further discussion, calling on a vote on the motion, please state your name and how you're voting.
Aaron, I.
David, I.
Greg, aye.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes.
So Josh, you'll write up a letter.
Yeah, we'll add something to that. And there's also, like you said, probably termination fee, so, or clause, so they won't go beyond the 70,000.
Yeah, it's in there.
Okay. But if we have a letter too, just to be clear. that-
Oh, yeah.
that'd be great.
You want me to prepare that letter?
Yeah, if you send me a letter, then I'll sign both and get it back to you this week.
Paul and I can work on that.
Excellent.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we want to be able to explain this if somebody comes forward and says, I understood you signed an agreement and you don't have that money in the bank, so.
We're just excited to get going. We can't
Yeah,
wait to start designing the project. It's been like, we're
I can imagine.
like being held at the gate and you're just like,
That's good. Well, we're looking forward to a new plant eventually. I should
Just
retract
one,
that. I'm sorry.
no,
I work.
just one that works.
We're looking forward, Steve's looking forward to a working plant.
Just got to get the old jalopy in for a rebuild.
That's right. Refurbishing that old Flathead 6 there. Okay, thank you. Next up, follow-up funding alternatives for the wastewater treatment facility 20-year upgrade. I think this is our spreadsheets.
Yeah.
are you gonna share these?
Yeah, I'm pulling up. Well, where's your overview? I think I just. Well, I can pull them all up if you want to walk
Yeah,
through them individually? Let me just get them going here.
that'd be great.
Or we'll just go one at a time, I guess. So here is the base model. All right.
Do you want my questions now or after you give your spiel?
He's right out of the gate.
He's looking, go ahead, Aaron, I'm sorry.
Aaron loves these.
So my first question, well, really, yeah, is we talked about doing the sort of spreading it out over the other taxpayers in the town, not just the users. And my question was, will the people that are taxpayers and also a water and sewer user / in the district, will they pay on their tax bill per their house, and then also with our rate payback system, or will they be excluded from the tax bill charge?
I think everybody will pay with the understanding that then the user's rates will come down. Is that?
So if that is the case, I did the numbers and the users will actually pay more per year than if we went with one of the higher scenarios, if they all had a house that was appraised at 500,000 and they were charged that 518 a year on their tax bill.
That means we would have to adjust the top line.
Well, I guess like in the scenario where you're taking a portion of the loan and having that go directly to the full tax base, it has to reduce down the total cost to the users because you're now adding more people paying in. So like anybody who's not on the system that's paying portion of that. Yeah, there is the double dip, Aaron, that you mentioned. Like there is that aspect of that scenario. But it will benefit the users.
So I like hear what you're saying, but if you look at like over on the right side of what Josh is sharing, the projection here.
Yeah.
Oh, good. This is the one. So if you look at the 516 on the bottom line, the municipal tax rate per 100,000.
Yeah.
So if you look at that 516 and you add it to the average residential bill, that ends up being more to the 881. That ends up being more than the 80% increase payback of summary number 1, which was the highest payback one. So if you go to like alternative 1, if you add that 516, that essentially that customer would be getting billed in their tax bill and in their water and sewer bill, it ends up being more money than it would be if we did the 80% rate increase in the year
So on this one,
FY38.
You're looking at the 516, that's per $100,000 in property value, plus the 256, that's the fixed rate. Where's the metered rate? Isn't there a metered rate in here too?
I'm looking at the average residential user annual bill at the $881.99.
Oh, sorry. There you go. Right. Okay.
So I'm looking at that
plus
number.
That is $1,400 essentially.
Correct, which is
And if we look at the base model,
1,
which is nothing. Oh, wait a minute. I thought the base model didn't have.
There's one that doesn't have, and it's like $1,300.
I thought the base model did not have a municipal tax rate.
It might be option 2. It was your least desired one.
Sorry, let me get my email. The least desired one was.
Oh, I could look on my email too. I'm not like totally
alternative
in the car.
Alternative 2 is the least desirable.
Okay, I'll pull that
I
up.
think that's what she just.
So that's the base model without local option taxes. But if we're comparing, so one thing you do need to do with this too is if you extend it out beyond FY34, it may change it. So let me, I'm just taking a look right
Oh,
now.
we can change it to a different. But I thought that the base model and this one did not have a taxpayer burden.
Correct.
But there's still 469 in here, which is, I think, why it's getting confusing.
But there's 0% increase, so there's no additional cost from the project to that.
Okay,
It's just being held there to represent that this model doesn't include any change.
gotcha. So if we were to go, so alternative 2 here, right? That's the one that's base model. This is the least favorable. So
I would compare it again. So if we're looking to compare we'd have to look at what is, so alternative 4 is added tax, or so let me get my email. Alternative 4 is the base model with taxpayer burden sharing. So we should be using alternative 1 to alternative 4 to compare the two, those two, because that's the only change that was made between the two. Is that fair, Aaron?
Yes, and that's what I thought was 1 and 4, but I don't remember seeing the municipal tax rate at 0% on the number 1.
And is that 100,000, is that 516? That's the full tax bill per 100,000. That's not just the increase from the water sewer portion. Right?
The 117 you said?
No, when we look at the municipal tax rate per $100,000, this 516, which is a little fuzzy up here. But let me zoom in, maybe it'll get better.
That's not the.
That's not that's a full tax bill per 100,000. That's not just the water sewer portion.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So the base model, if you look at alternative 1, yeah. Well,
So what is, so then
489,
what
497.
what portion of that would be from water and sewer? Because I was reading that as the 516 was their contribution to water and sewer. And I was like, that's not fair.
Increase
Gotcha,
would-
Aaron. Only you asked me to keep it $20 per $100,000 property. So I ran that scenario to try to get as close to a $20 increase per year. So you see in that column raw increase. Sorry, Steve, you had it.
Yeah.
Column Q raw increase. Yeah. So I played with the percentage to try to get the typical year about $20 per $100,000.
Okay, so if we're going to try to do the math, and let's say you have a $500,000 property, you're paying $100 extra in taxes plus the 881, so it's about 981 in total between your water bill and taxes, right? And then if we look
The
at
added extra tax.
add the extra tax, so your your water bill is 881, or your wastewater bill is 881. Your extra tax is $100. So you're at 991 in this scenario. And if we go to alternative 1, which is where we want our base, right?
Yeah.
So if we go to alternative 1, I'll zoom in here again. Then
And it would be nothing.
there's nothing, but it's 1,100. So it's $200 better on the other scenario in FY20,
for the
FY34.
for the $500,000.
Do you see that,
So-
Aaron?
I do now. I understand it now. I was like, this makes no sense before. But so I'm still confused what that for, like on this page in aisle O, what is the 496.89?
This here, that's your tax rate, that's your base tax rate per $100,000 projected for FY34 without adding water or sewer burden onto that.
Or any other increase. It's the current, no, that's what the
it's the
data
current.
we were given to us. So we didn't do any escalation in this. It's only going to be how much comes in from the water sewer
Right.
loan repayment.
The 496.
I still don't understand what
So,
you're saying. So that's like a
496
makeup number about the taxes. It has nothing to do with water and sewer.
So 496.89 is
Never
the current, from the data given to us, is the current, what municipal taxpayers pay per $100,000 in property value. So that's this current year. So what we
Okay.
did, So all in the scenarios we ran, it was just to see, well, what if we try to add this loan in $20 per 100,000? That's what I was working with in the percentages of the loan column. It's a different category. But yeah. So that's the base. And then any increase is, so the 3% increase in alternative 4 or 4% increase for the $20 is on top of that. Is that clear, Aaron?
Sort of. So the 0.4969 is like what I'm paying for $100,000 of worth of my house right now. It has nothing to do with water and sewer.
Correct.
Okay. Yes, then I'm good.
Yeah, and so quick kind of, I don't know, Josh, you probably forwarded the email, but the 5 alternatives we looked at, based on the request from the commission, the base model is a pretty good base model, like pretty good overall results, where as described below, that was the 20-year loan, 30,000 per day in septage, conservative growth. And I talked to Josh about what is conservative growth. That can mean a lot of things to different communities, but we felt 2 residential users per year is conservative growth. That could be infill. That could be a property that's currently vacant, and somebody moves in and fixes up a house, and you've got a new user on the system that's paying it. So local options tax, 50% of the projected local options tax, loan suppression. So that does mean that the first loan would be with the bond bank in order to do principal suppression. And then there were some questions about some of the costs that we have in future years for $50,000 in future equipment replacement, and $600,000 in capital projects out beyond. I'd be happy to answer questions around those. Those are largely future year scenario. We're just trying to keep a balance in the system to plan for, even if it's just maintenance on a pump or replacing a belt, or having Steve's ability to self-fund projects without relying on additional, having to go back to the SRF.
And how did you come up with those numbers?
To be honest with you, the little bar chart down below, I played around with some of that. But I did want the first one, the 50,000, to start a little sooner. So I have that in FY34. And then the 600,000 is something that when the commission, we'll all be retired, right? In FY50, that so by the time
I only wish.
so that's just that is what we want. Every community, it's tough for the public to think like about replacing these very large projects or another pump station or additional needs within the system. So we want to put that in there. We want that placeholder of thought for future generations to think, oh, I am going to need to start to reserve for a $3 million piece of equipment replacement. And the sooner you do that, if you do that 10 years in advance of having to buy that, you can have the money set aside. The goal in my mind, I was just at a bond bank presentation, a capital planning summit last week. The goal is to balance finance and fund, right? So if it was 50-50 in a perfect world for these large projects, like this $17 million investment that the commission working with us on, if 8 million of that was, you had reserves to pay, and then we were working on financing the other half of it, that would be a really healthy place to get to. I don't know of a community that's currently there. It's a dream. It's a pipe dream. But that's why we do this thinking 30 years out, with the hope that maybe we could be at a place where you are saving to offset the costs and not have to take out interest rate based loans. We know it's going to happen, right, Steve?
I would be all in supportive of that, but I can tell you right now, the ratepayers in Richmond get upset if we start banking money, because.
But yeah, a sinking fund is prudent. 50 grand a year would be, that's a lot. I guess my question for you, Josh, is do we have other unrestricted funds that we've been drawing on to pay for these pumps and things that they've come up?
Well, we've had some that's what's there.
Is there another vehicle outside of this framework that provides that contingency?
So again, this doesn't come in until FY50. So,
The 50 grand a year?
yeah.
So FY 34.
Oh, sorry, you're talking about the 50 or the 600?
I was looking at the 50.
The 50, sorry, no.
Yeah.
And then 50, I think you don't have coming until FY34 either, right?
Okay.
So that would be, because right now, what's in our budget for repairs, it's probably 20, 30, something like that.
Yeah, I gotta.
So then this would be on top of that, right, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
So we may not even need that in FY34, because the
What-
commission might set rates in FY34 and say, yeah, 20,000 has been about right.
You're absolutely right. In both of these scenarios, you may not actually tap in. This is just it's a conservative it's the future year conservative. So it's what we're really focused on is the next 10 years. How do we try to get this into the model of your user rates and septage rates to make sure that you can finance the project?
The other thing is our repair bill is huge right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would hope after an upgrade, our repair bill is not huge.
Right, here's our current budget for wastewater treatment facility repair, ballast solids facility repair. So currently, we're budgeting $45,000 a year between the two of them, or at least we are in FY27.
Yeah.
We used to be budgeting closer to 30. So I think that 50 would be a projection for what goes on top of that.
8 years hence, for sure. Yeah.
Right.
I didn't understand that aspect of it.
But I would hope that we take better care of it.
Right.
And that we're not in this position that far out.
Well, we tried to do that, which is why we kept the $50,000 specific to wastewater treatment facility equipment, because you do have other reserve funds for, you have the capital reserve, the short-term capital, and then the collection system capital. Those balances, we are teetering with out in that FY 40 to 44 range. Some of them are dipping near. We're trying to always keep them in above the threshold that you need to have in case something comes up. But this is on top of that, because we're like, well, what if something comes up with the new equipment that it's beyond its warranty and it needs something?
We had a 500-year flood and
Yeah. It's just, and it doesn't move the needle too much. If we take it out on any of these models, it's not changing, it's not impacting the plan.
Yeah, I think it's just the point that Steve says that as soon as we start to build up a capital account,
Yeah.
I think the argument has been like, well, why am I paying for future users? It's like school. I continue to pay taxes and I don't have kids in school.
The beauty that you have now with this is it's set, like everybody who's in the community is going to be investing into the system. And then 10 years down the road, well, you weren't investing back here, but like this is how it's been structured for a long time to continue to plan for it. So we're always paying in the proper amount.
I think the argument should be too that it just keeps it. You don't have the dips and mountains and valleys there, and it keeps rates down over the long run as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
And sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and part of this, since this has loan suppression, this is a look at the reserves plus the unrestricted. Those build up so that when the loan suppression ends, we can use that to pay that off, right? This is how this works here. So, you look at this is projecting about 2.7 million to 3 million out in FY33. And that's basically, if we tie that back to our budget, this is our wastewater unassigned and restricted funds right now. So right now we're at, this is 395 for the restricted. So we're at like $900,000 at the end of the fiscal year 25 or end of fiscal year, 25. So that number has to grow so that we can bank money to then pay off those loans as they come due. Because you have is it 10 years forgiveness?
It's 5 on the principal.
5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where some of that other curve comes in, where we're banking money, but we're using it to flatten it out and pay it in the future.
The suppress.
Because it's suppressed, so it allows you to build it up and then pay it off later.
Works really well for the two contracts, and that I'm really impressed with like how it impacts the model. I know we've gone through a lot of iterations together, but it's doing a good job for the community with that regard.
Right. Questions, Greg, comments?
Can we compare this to the one that we liked? I think it was 4 that had the money coming in from all the taxpayers, just to see what the difference is on the graph.
Oh, yeah. So this one, alternative 4, still has the loan suppression because it's the base model, but it also has taxpayer burden sharing.
Mhm.
So you want to look at this graph down here, Aaron?
Yeah.
Okay. And let me make it a little bit, oops. That's probably too small.
So it looks like it has a similar trajectory.
Yes,
As the base?
the wave, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it gets up to a peak in around FY33 of 3 million, even though the bars are a little longer on this one, because the long term doesn't it didn't get as high in FY60, but it's generally doing the same thing. And like I say, everything we think about with the community, nobody should be worrying about FY50 and beyond. Like that's when the new commission members, unless kudos to you if you're still here, would be making decisions for their user rates based on that time. And every year it's an adjustment.
That's when the next 20-year plan is required, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, okay.
Your youngest member will only be 70. So I don't see why you think I'm going to be gone in 2050. Come
on.
Awesome, Aaron.
That's right.
She just signed herself up, right?
Yeah.
But no, it's yeah. So
You can justify it.
but that's a great, and what I do like too that you've been able to do in all these is use a 20-year loan. You know, so we did talk about 30-year. 30-year definitely spreads out the loan repayment quite a bit, which can reduce down user rates. But to your point, that's about when you're going to start to see some other equipment that we're not doing right now, or something else that needs to get done, a large investment.
So I struggle with just the potential political tension that comes from the taxpayer, the broad-based taxpayer participation in this. I mean, I'm one of those people who sits in both chairs. I have property in the village where I pay 2 water bills, but I don't, at my home, I don't, and if the educational rates weren't skyrocketing the way they were, I think some of these other things would be less painful, but people's overall tax burden is accelerating faster than the background rate of inflation. And I want to do right by the citizens of Richmond. I mean, it seems like alternative 4, is the most equitable, or is sort of least sticky. But I don't know. Have you had people contacting you at the office, or had any?
Not about the possibility of the taxes going up for this.
I think we really need to get.
We haven't gotten it word out about it a lot. I don't think it's really well known that we're considering it.
We need to get the project into design and get a number. And then we need to do outreach.
Yeah.
Because yes, the public needs to know what their faith.
We still haven't, part of this project is outreach.
Yep. We're hanging on to that one when it's time to get going. We'll prepare a website. We've done it for other communities before. Yeah. We'll do public meetings. We'll host an event at the plant to allow the public in numbers. We don't typically get that many people, but but it would be like, we'll take them through a tour and teach them what the needs are, why.
Oh, yeah.
When you see the equipment.
Basically what I did for you and
Yeah.
I've done for everybody.
Yeah, it's, I put in there, there's definitely some great benefits to it. It is the least impact, or the best impact, most favorable results for the users. But I did want to show you, the other ones too, if it is possible to make
Thank
this
you.
work.
Sorry, Aaron's got a
Oh,
question.
sorry,
Andy,
yeah.
another question before we move on.
I have two quick questions. First question, and it's reasonable to assume that in any of these scenarios, if someone puts in like a 10-unit subdivision, that would only help our cause, right? Like if in 2029, someone, instead of 2 units, 12 went in that year, that would help offset our costs faster, correct?
Absolutely. That's huge. It's a big jump when you can get them in earlier, the better. And yeah, you're absolutely right,
Yeah.
Aaron.
Great. And then my other question is, because I have never done this, as we talked about before, we talked about how like it could be very polarizing to ask people that are not on the system to pay towards it. Are we allowed to go to the voters with 2 scenarios and say, like, we have to fix our wastewater treatment plant? Would you like scenario A or scenario B? And then I guess they have scenario C. They could vote both of them down. But can you take 2 things to them and like let them decide what they want to do? Or do we have to pick one?
I guess it depends on what you're trying to achieve here. Is, of course, if you give people options, right, they're going to choose the least painful one. So and I say this, how I want to say this, we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot by not doing good marketing. That is, trying to present this in a way that, and I don't say this just because I'm a user, water and sewer user, is that everybody in the town benefits from this water and sewer. I know it's a tough sell, but everybody does. So
I think, I mean, that, in my opinion, it really relies on the board and us coming up with the best scenario, and then we back it and present it as the scenario. If they vote it down, then we come back and we decide.
Have other options at that point.
And I think the 2 things in this that require voter approval, aside from the bond itself, is the local option tax,
right,
and the tax burden sharing.
Yeah.
Right. Other than that, nothing else requires voter approval.
Right, because you don't currently have a local option tax.
that's right.
So that would be an independent vote to institute a local option tax. Or if I would keep the language generic on what you're allowed to use it for, because you may get into year 5 and say, now we're doing well here, we want to reapply. You're not, in all these scenarios, it's year to year, you have the ability as a commission to decide what's best for your users and your system. So you're not locking yourself into a 60-year plan here. We're just making sure that you could use any of the scenarios. Like you could get into year 3, aside from like a major change, like instituting a taxpayer portion, maybe you can even do that in year 3. I'm not even sure. Like you could say at that point that it's time to do it, but yeah, there's flexibility.
But for your example of the local option tax, if we got in and 5 years in, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
There's nothing, if we leave it open-ended, the town leaves it open-ended, there's nothing saying that money couldn't end up coming to the town center up.
Right.
Fix ups.
What we'll want to do in the, both on the website and when we present to the public, is to speak to, this is the plan, this is how, and if we're planning to use 50% of local option tax, we'll want to say that. We want transparency, and we'll want to say to the users, anticipate a 10% rate increase for the next 5 years to pay for this $17 million project.
That's the one that's going to get a lot of attention.
It will, and it does, but the benefit that we have, or not the benefit, but the needs of the plant are so vital to the community, to everybody in the community. It is right down there on the river. Everybody uses this as their public space. It supports the businesses, everything that makes Richmond great. That's where we usually get support for wastewater projects because of what it does. It's an environmental necessity.
But Aaron, back to your question about presenting two options. Are you concerned that if we put option A up with everybody paying tax, that people will get pretty disgruntled and not want to pass the bond?
Yeah, I guess I've never been on the back end of like putting something on the ballot before. So I didn't know if it ever happens that we say like, we really don't know what the town would prefer. So we're giving you two options. I'm fine with making a decision and doing one option. I don't think that we should take lot revenue and also charge the property tax. That feels like we're now triple dipping.
I'm sorry, the option tax or?
I think if we do the options tax, we can't also do the extra $20 per 100,000.
Well, I see those as being competing approaches.
Yeah.
Right.
Honestly.
I don't think we can do both on the same proposal.
Honestly, I probably would rather pay an extra $100 a year on my property taxes than to pay an extra 1% on everything I buy in Richmond, because I try to shop locally, and I wouldn't want it to be negatively impactful on our small business community because they're perennially kind of hanging on by their fingernails.
So where we have, so with the local options tax, where that has been positioned differently is that it's getting people who are coming from out of town that are using the town to then contribute back into the wastewater facility. So it's not intended to necessarily hit the residents, though it does. But if you think about like $1,000 purchase, it'd be $10 more. Is that $10 going to be something that changes your mind on purchasing something locally? I doubt it. It's possible for some people, but more likely, but that $10 going to what it can do for the infrastructure of the community, because it may come down to roads. It might come down to something else too that brings value to the town. It has brought really good money into a lot of communities, and ideally from out of staters visiting.
And the other thing is, you got to remember, everybody shops local, yes, but wasn't it 50% about was what Amazon ends up paying in? Because all of that is taxed. And anything delivered from Amazon
That's appealing. I didn't know. I didn't realize that.
So you have to think
cash
of that
register thing.
Yeah, no. So if you think of everything everybody orders online that's delivered in Richmond, they're supposed to be paying tax on. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's correct. And the difference between alt 1 and 2, those are the two good ones to look at, because one, they're the same option, but without local options tax. And it's a significant difference to the users on that. Now, for the local business too, the downtown business, if that's helping to keep their wastewater rates down because it's a collective contribution back into the system, that offsets the 1% that they're now charging.
Okay.
And I think that doesn't apply to groceries. So it would not hit the person going.
No, I think that
it's like services.
And I'm not going to not go to Stone Corral or not going to, Sweet Simone's. I'd rather pay a lot more for my purchases at the local hardware store than have to go to Williston. I hate that. But,
yeah.
But then again, I can afford to do that. It's
right.
And I wasn't a big faith in support of it until it was brought up that, there's all that mail order that's also getting taxed now.
Yeah, I see them on my road every day. Okay.
So, Aaron, I can send you a sample of, we just had the Woodstock wastewater treatment facility, that bond vote passed with 80% on the same ballot as the school, which we were blown away by. We were very happy with. But it's very simple language, and you want to keep it as what the community is doing is they're approving the commission and the town to take on the loan, the bond for the project at the full amount. We have other language on the website where we see that we help the public understand that we're seeking grants. You did get a $1.47 million grant. So all of that stays separate, but the vote itself has to be structured as that you're authorizing the town to take on this loan for this wastewater project. But I can help you all. I can get that language. That's part of that next step of the public outreach when we're ready.
But that
Okay.
on that ballot, if we want to do local option tax or taxpayer burden sharing, it would probably have that question as well as the bond vote. You do both at the same ballot, probably.
Up to you. Most of the times the lot has been in place prior
Yeah,
to.
we have it.
If you're on the November ballot, it's a good time to vote on things.
Probably gonna be March though, right? By the time we
Or
get
the
to
March
March.
ballot.
Well, he's saying that maybe we do the local option tax if we decide.
Oh, we could do it.
You
time.
could do it ahead of time and then it's already in place.
Yeah, that's
So we
true.
can maybe possibly bank that money coming in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, it's a good. all
And
right.
you could use, this project as it's in support of these large investments, if that.
Yeah,
But we want to be very clear that it's not the only funding source
right.
if we do it. I
Well, yeah,
mean,
the language has to be very simple on
Yeah.
how we use it.
And
I
starting
might be able to get Woodstock's.
the lot early would also give us a better number of what the actual
Yeah,
lot is going to yield, because we don't know how much of the sales tax is coming from. I worry about Hutchins and
Yes.
Milton Cat and Harrington's Ham that do a lot of business outside of Richmond. It's not going to be applied to the local option tax.
Harrington fee tax, I mean, they're,
Oh, maybe they are tax exempt. I don't know.
well,
are they
They're like
tax exempt?
fancy hams, right?
yeah, I don't know. I guess I'd have to look.
It's
Oh,
food,
really?
so maybe you're right, because maybe you don't pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
interesting.
hadn't thought about that, but certainly
A
Milton
food
Cat
source.
and J. Hutchins, I think, are a large amount of that.
Yeah.
And we're not going to see anything from them because they're not selling many excavators here in Richmond.
Put
No.
that in this list.
If we voted on the option tax, we would do that in March at the same time as we're hoping to put this in front of the voters, correct?
That's
Well,
what
well,
we're discussing.
that's-
So
If it's advantageous to vote on that in November, but we'd have to have a clear explanation of that's only,
why?
right.
But you're not gonna
Now-
be through 30% yet, right?
We'll be through 30% before.
Yeah, in September.
Yeah, well, September.
Okay, all right.
Go ahead, Aaron.
We could start taking like if we did local option tax and it passed in November, when would we be able to start taking the funds for that? And would we get like a year's jump on our grid? Because we're taking the money starting in fiscal year, starting in 27, but we don't break ground until 28.
If we approved in,
In
If we
November,
approved in November,
I think, is it as quick as the next month it goes into effect?
For the lot.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've got to do some work with the state, right? 'Cause they
Right.
Help you. I don't know how long it takes to turn over. It does seem fairly quick though, and
yeah.
on the return of.
I mean, it seems that maybe it would maybe advantageous to get it started ahead of the bond vote or the vote that we have.
If it was in place, that would help.
Right, you don't have to,
Narrative for
you're
the-
not gonna have to be
Doing both.
working through how it works. You'll know by then.
Yeah, and Aaron, I'll take a look. But I do remember reading when we were looking at the local option tax that it doesn't take a long time to get it in place, I don't think. I think it was a matter of a couple months, if that, after the vote.
well, and even if it started July 1st, when like fiscal year 28 started, but we didn't start our, like it just seems like
Yeah.
if that's something we go with, we probably want to put that in front of the voters as soon as possible.
yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does anybody have a predictive model? I mean, knowing what we know about gross sales and stuff here,
He has a rough one.
Yeah, I mean, the state has a lot of data that I was able to go into and pull data out and then run it through like how much they keep of the tax, how much we get. The problem is they don't sort that data out by sales in Richmond. It just is sales of Richmond based businesses. But one thing they said was what you lose in sales outside of Richmond, you'll gain at least some of that back in like Amazon sales because they don't track that. But if we started to get serious about this, we might want to reach out to Hutchins and Milton Cat and ask like, hey, what's your annual sales if they'll share that so that we can sort of subtract that from the model, add in a number from Amazon. But looking at how they have it set up here, they're looking at, I think that 332, I think, is the total lot potential revenue, and you're only looking at 50% of that. So even if our total lot revenue was $160,000 and we used 100% of it, like I think that their models are safe.
Yeah.
You got it.
But yeah, getting a jump start on it also would allow us to get that better handle on how much are we getting per month
Right.
and per year.
Yeah. Yeah, we can address the language about, if people are concerned about setting that aside in reserves, that it will only be used for. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, absolutely. Yeah, okay.
Aaron, more questions?
No, I'm gonna try to move indoors to a plug for my computer. So if I get kicked off of this Wi-Fi situation I've set up, I'll just call in. So I'm not like a spammer. It's me.
Okay. David, questions? No.
No.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and again, not beholden to anything. We still have time. Even with the one thing that would change the design is the bond bank. So if the first contract is definitely planning to go external of either USDA or CWSRF funding, it wouldn't be subject to real cross cutters like BABA and Davis Bacon. So it changes our specs, but I don't think the 30% design is really impacted by that. It would be more when you start to advance closer to 60 and really 60 into 90 when we do our specs. So I would be comfortable, like, we're going to find out where the point scoring comes out this probably June, July timeframe when the SRF releases their IUP, and we'll see how we fared with the scoring on projects that are eligible for it. There is still a chance that the project falls below it, but what's good is we're already running models without SRF. So yes, it increases the long-term interest on loan, but because of the flexibility with the bond bank, it actually has real benefits to the community.
Right.
I ran alternative 5 just in case to take a look at if you wanted to stay with SRF. That saved $200,000 over the 20-year loan in interest, but it was less favorable than the bond bank scenario because you can't do loan suppression with SRF. But good to have it all right now. Let's wait and hold off on making, a call if the design needs to account for or not account for cross cutters. We got time on that.
Okay. To be continued.
Yeah, select board's gonna have to get involved in the lot, right?
The bond, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's right. That's right. That's the select board.
And we can also try to look for offsetting savings in other parts of the budget, and just anything we can do to take it easy on our taxpayers right now.
Yep. Agreed. All right, good. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, John. All right, next up.
More.
We still got- there's something
What's that?
I think Aaron's rules in, but they're going to hang out for the pump station discussion.
Oh. All right, yep.
Yeah, Eric's not on yet, but I've been talking with Eric, so we can help out with that. If he'll.
I'll just ping him, but I don't know. He's not green. I don't even just call. I don't call him.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just see.
Do you
I guess maybe just like a quick update. So last we talked about it with the commission, we were talking about the area that's sort of down the road behind the current location or down across the street from Gary Bresser's by the bridge. or keeping it in place, but we also had some exploratory work to do on both of the other alternatives. So the commission wanted to move forward with getting some test drilling done at the Bridge Street location. So I met with Gary. We walked the property, took a look at it. He had some questions about the exact drill sites, which I think you're following up with Eric on to figure
Yeah,
out where that's gonna be.
I've got to get a map from Gary to
Yeah.
give to Eric. But he was fine with two of them not being where they are on the map.
And in general, Gary, on another review of it, seemed in favor of the next step. Let's take a look, let's do some drilling and see what the feasibility is there. So I think we're working on scheduling that hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And
Did we need to increase? It was a little more
so,
expensive
no,
than we.
you got it down. It was gonna be like $6,042. They knocked $42 off of it, or
Oh.
whatever it was. So we're down to 6,000. Commission
Had approved.
approved.
All right.
So I just signed that for John just prior to the meeting. So
then.
we're good to move forward on that as soon as we get the agreement from Gary that we're able to do the test drilling in those locations.
And one thing I want to make sure, marking where we think that sewer line is as best we can. I'm not sure how close you think you can get it.
Conduit, you mean?
You're talking about a conduit for Gary and where this,
So the conduit are, as described to us, are like concrete encased conduits.
yeah, but
So we're gonna try and.
it's 20. I was looking at the plan that I found, but Gary says there's a better one. It's like 20 inches wide and 10 inches deep.
Yeah. I worked with, for the purposes of what we need to do here with Eric, we relocated a couple of the probe locations.
Yeah.
To avoid risk on any potential utility location, because to get ledge depth, we can be a bit away from it.
Right.
We're not going to be building over the top of those concrete encased.
Right, there, we're not even gonna be.
We would be further to the left, so
Right.
we're going to focus our probes where the potential pump
Most
station could go.
yeah.
And offset a conservative distance from the sewer line, because what I was worried about, so the sewer line running north-south, right?
Yep.
You know, so along
Right here.
along parallel to the sidewalk.
Somewhere in there.
And
And there's a water line there too.
then water lines inside of, hopefully, you know, that's, yeah, so
You don't have a better picture over towards Gary's house?
yeah, this is Google.
They just have a Google Street View right now. What were we
Yeah.
looking for?
Well, so,
His bank goes through here somewhere, right?
yeah, right in through there, and then it comes to that concrete
Right.
pad, and then back over to that telephone pole. So
What-
it's in a V.
What is,
I'm less worried about those, because
The sewer line, that is more of an issue. I don't have much paperwork on that.
what material is it?
I have,
There's no tracer.
It's-
There's no.
no,
So, we'll.
it's yellow mine where it goes over the bridge.
That's relatively.
Do we know where the pump
Right.
station is? Do we know where it pops out?
No.
Oh,
You're talking the
water.
water lines new.
Yeah. So we'll work with you. When
Yeah.
we feel Mark, I just want to, I asked Eric to be even more conservative, because it's ledge pumps. Like, we don't have to be on top of the exact pump station location. We want to get we're doing 3 to 4, depends, we got them for a day. We'll do as much as we can do.
Right.
And I trace it back towards towards the existing pump station, because if we're digging a new line through, we want to know if the ledge peaks up or if it stays consistent out.
I'm assuming that where we go under the conduit banks towards the bridge, we know we're gonna be depth enough there. I mean, without anything, because
Yeah.
we're already there.
Yeah.
Uh,
We'll work with you. I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
that I have you out there.
But Gary, yeah, I plan on being there, but Gary and I are supposed to meet this week. And he's gonna mark out his things,
Perfect.
and he has a more exact drawing than the one I have, that was done after where they actually are. So that I will have. I don't have a lot on where the sewer line is.
It's okay. Yeah, we figured that. That's we're
I know where it is in the sidewalk. At the pump station.
Yep.
but I can't say where it goes up through there. I assume they hugged the road until up by that telephone pole somewhere.
That's what we have it marked on the existing
Yeah.
plans as.
Josh, can you point to where we were talking about this going, the structure?
Somewhere in.
Yeah.
Yeah, right in there.
So it would be to the right of Gary's concrete pad?
When now to the
No.
left.
Oh, down this way.
Yeah, right in that area.
And then the control panel, Gary wanted to put the control panel back over here so that
It's hidden a little.
it dips down behind the fence, so he doesn't look at it out of his window.
That could work.
So how high above ground level will this structure be?
When we initially looked at it, it was gonna be like maybe 3 feet,
Right
not much different than what we look at
now,
down.
right,
But it will be deeper.
right.
That seems fine. I mean, the problem with the other one is it's
Yeah.
8 feet out of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, so as we think about this, so this will be more expensive.
Yeah,
Moving a pump station will be more expensive because we're gonna have to dig, the gravity line's gonna have to go deeper to get to it. I would anticipate that's gonna.
I thought Eric was talking that this was still cheaper than doing it where it was because of the expense of removing the old one, the bypass pumping that would have to go during all of construction.
Fair, you're right. Actually, let me retract my statement and say, if there's ledge, it will be more expensive.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why it's good to do the ledge probes. Let's, this is the study phase. Let's figure it out. If everybody is, if it turns out to be correct, then that's great. And you building a new pump station where you don't have to do bypass pumping is helpful.
If there's ledge, can we even realistically construct it there with the bridge being so close? How would you get through that ledge without damaging the bridge?
Depends on the quality of ledge. If you can hammer it, you'd be all right, but no blasting.
Yeah,
Right.
they wouldn't let you blast it. I mean, both Gary and Pete mentioned that there was large amounts of excavation done there
Right.
and with no ledge viewed ever on that side of the,
Interesting.
both Pete.
I don't know if they went down to the depth that we're going to though.
No, I'm sure they didn't, but Pete was like, he's like 20 feet and he's like, I didn't hit anything. And
20 feet?
yeah, and Gary swears that there was a hand dug well that went down 30 feet and didn't have, it was just stoned up. And he's like, they didn't dig it through ledge back then, but.
Birds.
That would be nice.
So if that is the case, then this could be a really good option.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going on what they both have said and.
I know.
Pete's our road foreman, just so you know.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Who's looking at Gary's yard and you think there's gotta be.
Well, on Gary's yard, there's ledge everywhere,
Right.
Yeah.
but this is,
It's over a year.
and for years it back, the way the river is.
You got all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
There's a lot back here, right?
yeah,
I mean, even just looking at the river from that other side.
Yeah.
But when Pete was out there, hearing Pete say it, it
right.
gave me a little more comfort.
Right.
It's two people now saying, oh, no, that side's full of ledge. This side
Right.
is a little bit better.
Yeah,
So we'll know more.
and,
As soon as we get the
and,
drum.
they put a telephone pole there. They didn't blast for the pole
No.
and,
How deep do they go for poles, like 10 feet or?
yeah,
If it were to, in its existing condition where it is sticking up out of the ground, I know Eric ran through some potential, whether it be landscaping, like you can do cedar hedges in front of it, whether you do a facade or some structure to it. I know he gave you a couple renderings, but they're even just what I've seen a lot with utility structures is just a mural. Like if somebody were to paint a covered bridge on it, it can be something that is not the worst.
Yeah, it's just, you take this picture and it's 9 foot
Yeah.
of concrete, whether it's 9 foot of block or 9 foot of poured concrete, it's 9 foot of concrete right there.
Yeah. It's a sensitive setting. I mean, that is
Totally
the
get it,
historic
yeah.
village center and
Yeah, if this was across the river, no problems. But be with the round church there and the older homes there that set the round church. It's really hard to.
Make it a mini round church.
That was the design of the band shell originally. It's sort of the round church style.
Yeah,
Yeah, all right, that's great. So we will,
Yeah.
we'll get those probes scheduled. We'll work with Steve to make
Yep.
sure we're safe in the locations and see what we got.
Yeah.
That's the next step for.
yeah, I think, it's open-ended. Gary just had some heart surgery, so, but he said that he would let me know this week, Wednesday or Thursday, and he would go and we would mark where the banks are, so we know exactly. And he's pretty good. If he marks them, that's pretty much where they should be.
Yeah.
But
Great. Okay, any other questions on the pump station? I could bring them back to Eric if you have, but that's the update for now. It's still daylight out.
Yeah, there you go. All right, thank
oh, we got a lot more to come.
daylight for who? Yeah. Aaron's in the daylight.
We got no select board this evening.
Yeah.
Open-ended.
Goodness.
All right, we're good.
Free range, which is dangerous. No set end time.
So we'll probably jump out here, but before I go, I do see you have coming up rates discussion. And I won't put the plug in for continuing to increase rates right now. It is important to continue to build reserves and ease the burden over time. So
Thank you.
message delivered.
Okay. All right.
Thanks,
thank you.
guys.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yep.
Yeah, good to see you again. Thank you. Shut down.
All right.
Kirsten go anywhere fun?
Yeah, you know where she is?
No.
Backpacking in Spain right now.
She did that one got canceled
Years ago.
because of the forest fire or something in Spain.
Yeah.
So she did get to go. Okay.
She's not
Cool.
catching the eclipse over there, is she? That's later this summer?
I think that's later.
I think
Yeah.
I mentioned that.
Yes.
She had this trip planned like a year ago, and they were like, "Don't come because it's all burning."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's exciting. We're happy for her. She deserves a
Yeah,
break.
good.
And
For her.
when she comes back, we'll hit the ground running on this project.
Yeah, good.
Well, that's part of it. We want to actually set the table a little bit. That's why I want to get Sarah going with window lamper scan. So we're gonna have this set. All she's got to do is pick it up.
She comes.
Fill in her marks, hand it back to us.
Take off.
ready.
Yeah.
All
Nice.
right.
All right.
That'd be
Cool.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you, Paul. All right, item D. Consideration of setting a date for the annual meeting. Josh?
Yeah, so typically we hold the annual meeting the Tuesday after the second Monday in May, which this year that would be Tuesday, May 19th. That gives us this meeting and the May 4th meeting to really focus in on finalizing rates and the budget. Even if we needed that May 18th meeting, we could still have a little bit of extra time. But I think we're getting pretty close. I mean, there's not a lot of change in the budget. I don't think
Yeah.
we have to do.
I'm
We're looking at rates and changing what we want to do there.
I'm out the 7th through the 17th of May. I'll be back for the 18th and the 19th. So
Okay. Would we do a meeting on the 18th as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so what we do, the way we do is we have a regular meeting on the 18th.
Right.
And then the 19th would be mostly focused on budget and rate presentation. And any sort of like annual recap from the last year we wanted to do. But yeah, we'd have our regular meeting as well.
How many hours?
I
I
think,
don't remember. Was
yeah, hour and a half, maybe. It's never that long.
depends how many people pack in here.
We've never had a great
And,
turnout either.
Maybe we should move this to the library or?
Well, my first couple of years here, we did, and it was like Gary and two other people that showed.
Oh.
I don't think anybody showed up last year.
I think the library was a bit overkill. So doing it here is fine.
Okay.
I hope we get more people,
Okay,
Yeah.
but we never get a huge crowd.
could do it in your office, fill the room up.
Make it feel big.
I have a conflict
Uh-oh.
on
Okay, we
the
could-
18th.
We could do it another day
Oh,
too.
you have it on,
Well, that's just the regular monthly meeting
Meeting.
on the
The
18th.
18th is a regular meeting.
Well, I understand that. I'm the
19th, yeah.
19th as well.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I'm going to be in Ohio at my nephew's graduation.
okay.
If we have a quorum, I mean, I can always phone in, I guess, but,
Or we could, I mean, we could do it the next week. I think last year we actually waited till early June.
well, yeah, we had to because
Because it
people
was,
were traveling.
yeah, I think it was that,
Oh.
so. I mean, if you guys want to wait until the next meeting too, when we have hopefully Bard back and everybody else, we
Might
can
be-
wait a little bit to set the actual date. It's fine.
okay.
Rather do that.
Well, then I can firm up exactly what my plans are for the graduation, because I know the actual graduation itself is on the 18th.
Okay.
Okay, does David or Aaron, will you be around the 19th or the 26th?
Yeah, those
I'm on
dates
my
work
big-
for me.
Yeah, I'm on my big trip right now.
Oops. All right, I'm gonna,
All right, we can talk about it next meeting
Okay.
and
Okay.
finalize it then. That's no
sounds
problem.
good, all right. Update on easement attainment for Tilden Bridge Street, Cochran Waterline.
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is there anything else that we need to vote on? Because I have to go in 9 minutes.
No more voting, just reviewing rates and whatnot for the budget. But yeah, no more voting.
Okay.
Are you gonna see $100,000 Cal tonight, Aaron?
We'll see. I'll send you a picture if I do.
Yes.
Where are you?
I'm at Eastern States at the spring show for New England.
Oh,
Nice.
they might be $100,000 heifer there.
We got some
Yeah.
good looking walking in behind you there.
There's gotta be-
Right behind you there, there's a line coming in.
After,
Those are
although
my kids.
after finding the price of bobcats lately, it's unbelievable.
Okay,
So
Mhm.
on easements, we have all the easements that we need in hand.
oh, nice.
Awful plus.
So
Yeah.
that's great.
Started
Thank you.
this process in August,
I would
August
say
5th.
Easements was all Steve and his crew, and then the PTTRs was a lot of Duncan making
Yeah.
phone calls and getting those in. And we've got all the information we need for PTTRs, so now I'm just sort of getting the steps in line from our attorney as far as like, we have to record something, it goes to the attorney, then it comes back for more recording, so there's a little bit of paper shuffling that needs to happen over the next 2 weeks. But I feel very comfortable that we have everything in place. We're gonna have a contract signing, I think, maybe later this week or next week. And there's a pre-construction meeting early May. I think we're still trying to set that up. So I'm very happy that this phase is over.
So
Yeah,
you'll be breaking ground in June.
As I say, it's
I
like
would
pulling. his
really
teeth
hope
to
so.
Get that information.
Well, and I get it, you know.
It's time of year to do that.
Especially.
Well,
Yeah,
they
100%. So, but we're
they
getting,
could start on Tilden. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not, really wouldn't want to start on Bridge Street until after school was out.
Yeah.
that'd be great. Yeah. I just,
Especially with those stop signs that aren't there and
well, then they can start, because if school's in session, we would probably ask them to wait until
Right.
8:30 to shut down one lane. If school's not in session, have at it. I mean, there's no traffic on Bridge Street without school.
Well, we'd be happy for them to start on Tilden.
well, I said they could start on Tilden also if they wanted to start before school was out.
Yeah.
Or even Cochran for
I'll have to
that.
say too, because sometimes I remember when they did Bridge Street, one of my first years here, they went through the place like 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like, oh, they're gonna do all of Tilden and then slowly
Right.
move all the way to the end. So we'll have to see what their phasing looks like as
Yeah.
well.
Okay. Great, thank you. Superintendent's report.
Nothing's broke, but it's Monday.
That's an
Um,
opportunity, okay, chance.
yeah, we went over a bunch of prices and stuff I've got for fixing things that we do need to fix. I got an estimate for the filter cloth. I sent you that was the wrong estimate.
$4,300 was wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Was
Yeah,
it closer to the 10 that we thought?
Well, I went to write out the PO and she only had put down 12. We need 24. So it was,
It makes more sense.
yeah,
Unfortunately.
but it's still under 10.
Where's the filter cloth go?
What?
Where does the filter cloth go?
They're the replacement cloths that go in the filter tank.
A big wheel thing.
Yeah, those big wheels. They're a pie. There's 6 in each filter cloth, wedges in each pie, and there's 24 of them.
Right. That's an expendable then, right?
I had asked for us to have them on the shelf. We had them on the shelf after one of the floods and had to change them because
Right.
they were totally inundated with silt and there was nothing we could do to clean them. And if it's a 12-week wait. So if we don't have them on the shelf, we couldn't filter.
Okay.
I had kind of forgot about ordering them after I'd asked for the money last year in the budget. But when we looked at it, I was like, oh, I should do that. So I got the price. The other thing that came up is the price. When I was talking with them, I got a quote for the price of the filter tank that we're not using right now because the control panel isn't working. That I was not so impressed with. It's to do it, they have to change both filter tank program setups. They work independent of each other, but you can't have 2 different systems working on our SCADA. It wouldn't mesh. It's $53,000.
Didn't you have a line on a used control board, a plug-in or?
Unfortunately, those aren't going to be up for grabs for a while, and one has 2 of them, and they are 2 different. They have 4 filter discs in it, so it's different programming and different.
Okay.
Unfortunately, those wouldn't work.
It's too bad.
But the pie-shaped plastic pieces and all that stuff we could use, and still will become available for us. But yeah,
Okay.
that's something that we really have to talk about. I can't see spending that money right now, but it also gives us only one filter that works. It's not ideal. If we get into a flood event, we're gonna really be hurting.
Okay. Is this something that's going to get replaced in the upgrade?
We've asked for it, yes.
Okay.
Basically, everything that's in the plant that's computerized is outdated. It's 20 years old. They don't even make parts or pieces to replace the filters, the control panels that if we wanted to order parts for this control panel, they're said that they're almost impossible to find because they're so outdated.
But Kirsten, they've put replaced.
Yeah, it's in there.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
So the question is whether we can
Hold out until
Wait or
then.
not.
I mean, it's if we got one big flood event, we'd be.
It's not something that we could, if we had to replace it all now, and then when everything starts, it will fit into the new upgrades.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is anything that I do is fits to the upgrade. I don't do anything that's
Okay.
contradictive to anything. my first call to Kirsten is, if I have to change this, is it copacetic to what we want to do in the upgrade?
Right, okay.
Or is, what am I looking for to do for the upgrade? We've increased the wet well. We've gone to from a pressurized reading for the height in the wet well. We've gone to a radar reader.
Right.
That is all, foreseen in the upgrade. Along with that, the effluent discharge flow meter, which is a radar reader where it goes over the weir, that went bad. We changed that also. But we went from what they call a Sigma 900, which I was told there's only 2 plants in the state left using them. They've all been outdated and trashed because they're so terrible. And we went to a Vega system, which is pretty much the state of the art and what Kirsten had designed for.
Okay,
So we do anything I do, I call Kirsten first. What am I looking for to do to fit into what you want to do in the upgrade?
Mm.
It's always that way for me. Cause I'm not putting something in that she's gonna come along and say, oh, this isn't where we're going.
yeah,
I always check with her.
okay,
Water is been rock solid. I mean, we're working, mostly we're working on trying to deal with the issues on, the Zenner. We still have about 20 meters that are reading trouble codes off and on. They tell me these trouble codes don't mean anything, but yet when we're looking at the data that's supplied by Zenner, we'll have 4 or 5 days where they're good, and then we'll have a day where there's unavailable reading, and then we'll have a day where the very first hour is all of the unavailable reading water. So you'll have a day, the big one is Stone Corral. So you'll have a day where you'll have no water usage. It was unavailable. And then you will have 1,400 gallons in 1 hour on the next day, the very first. And I keep telling them that I can't have this. We've got to correct it. And it's one of those never ending circles.
yeah,
But that's where we're really working on. We did get the last meter that we were having problems with, getting it actually to read into the system was the pickleball court. That now is reading. So where everything is now reading, and that was been one of the big problems that we've had. So, and on the billing side, the very, I think we ended up with one bill that I had to physically go read the meter, because it wasn't quite right. It wasn't truncated right, which means it was reading too many digits. And we corrected that. Going forward, we should have a flawless, the readings on the bill or what the readings on the meters are, should be a pretty straightforward going forward.
okay,
So it's taken a long time to get that to that point. Last time it was like, I think there were a dozen. Time before that, there were 40. But we were down to 1, and I foresee next time none. And
nice,
that's where I want to try to keep it.
okay,
So the water has all been about the metering, and that.
great, thank you. You want to,
Thanks.
next up, consumer confidence report and PFAS data. Look pretty darn good.
It's all the data the consumer confidence reports generated by the state. They gave all the data that is on their websites. We're asked to verify it. I had Aaron and Brad go through it all. and verify all the numbers were the same as on the numbers on the website. The concern for me was the PFAS levels were rising a little bit. We're now on a, and everybody is on the same testing. It's not just us. Every quarter, we're required to test for PFAS now. So our first quarter in this year, our PFAS levels were down again.
So that's this year.
And that's why I included, yeah.
So this is the CCR, Consumer Confidence Report. So this shows data through October 9th of 2025. And what they do is they take the three numbers, they add them up, so you get a sum of 8.72 for all your PFAS compounds. When you look at the data for the sampling in 1/7/26, it's frustrating. They don't total them up here, but you can see this is the 10-9 sample. So we had a 3.34 that went down to 0.899, 2.41 went down to 1.42, and 2.97 went down to 1.03. I don't know if trends mean anything in PFAS, Steve, but it's good to see it going down.
It's probably a sinus rhythm, yeah.
I would, yeah.
The concern in 2025 was that it was going up.
Right.
For me and for people that look at it.
Okay.
That didn't trigger us to having to test quarterly. The EPA is looking for more data points. It used to be only every 3 years you tested for PFAS. Unless you dinged, then you went into if you test 3 years in a row and don't have any, then you don't have to test for another 3. So they were looking for more data points to get a better handle on statewide what was happening. It's actually nationwide. And so we're testing quarterly, and it's quite expensive. It's about $580 a test. But you know, these are forever chemicals, so we're trying to get a little bit of handle on it. I will say that the April test we did for the second quarter in this year came back also low, about the same as the January test. So we're trending lower.
Okay. Okay.
That's all you can hope for.
Yeah, I mean,
So the CCCR or CCR will get mailed out to every single account holder.
Yep.
We'll also post it on the website, and we put it in Front Porch Forum, and we post it in the physical locations, and that's all a state requirement.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody has the data, but yeah, everything was within the acceptable zones, nothing was over. So good job to you guys for
Yep.
keeping everything good.
Yeah, good. Right. Thank you. Right. Review of draft fiscal year 27 budget and rates.
Yeah, so
So I guess we can change that statement about the reduced cost for the filters.
yeah. So
yeah,
so on the budget, nothing changed on the water budget or the wastewater budget since last review. The only thing I did on the wastewater was we added in the 5 years for the gateway loan, so that matures in FY31, but all the numbers in the budget stayed the same, but we put that data in there. The water restricted and unrestricted funds stayed the same. In wastewater, yeah, we thought we had a reduction from 10,000 to 4,400. We will, but that's more like 9,000, you think, or 10,000? Yeah.
it's under 9.
So that's going to be closer to 9,000. And then we add, this is sort of the list that Steve went over at the last meeting where, Greg, I think you were trying to total it all up. We sat down, totaled it up, added it in here. Control panel, is that the one you were saying was going to be in the $50,000 range?
What do we have there?
Nothing. It was
determined.
Yeah.
last we talked.
Because I mean, right now, yeah, that's in the 50. And
Okay.
it's unfortunate that,
Well, even if that stays in 50, it
Yep,
You know,
about 54, sorry.
Okay, that's fine. We're still doing okay. So this is our unrestricted funds for wastewater. That would give us a projected, let me make this bigger. I'm sorry, guys.
I'm
Yeah.
blind as it is.
Yeah, it gets funny when you're putting it up there. So that would still give us a projected FY26 balance of 319,000. The budget is projected right now at 845. 15% of that is what the auditors say we should keep on hand. So that still gives us 193,000 over the 15%. So if we got to buy a control panel before the study to be flood ready, then we got to buy a control panel. I think we have the money for that. I think we'd be okay. Before we jump into rates, any questions on budget? There wasn't a lot of changes, so there may not be a lot of questions.
No.
Okay, so then make sure David doesn't have his hand up. David. All right, so in the rates, what that means, this is the meat of the rate sheet when you get to the water and sewer rates. So water, actually, maybe we'll start up here. So the water budget in FY26 was 387. That increased to $408,000 in FY27. So for rates, and maybe actually I should slowly go through this real quick.
Yeah.
So Greg, I know Greg hasn't seen this before. So what I do is we start out with the total budget up here.
Yep.
Then we look at our non-core user groups. So we've got an industry fixed rate. We've got some allocated accounts. Industry is just Stone Corral. So we have a calculation that it calculates the fixed rate there, and we calculate the allocated accounts. We also take into account non-core revenue. So for water, that's sale of water, about $3,000. The fire protection that comes in from the taxpayers at about $38,000. We estimated $2,000 in hook-on fees, $11,000 in interest on checking. So about $54,000 comes in there. So the total revenue from non-core users is that plus the above here. So now we're looking to raise $352,000 from our core users. So we'll just stick with the water for now. So now we go down to the water users and we look at usage in the last 12 months. So basically from April 1st of last year through the end of March this year, residential was at about 9.5 million gallons. Make this a little bigger here again. Commercial school government was about 4.9 million. School is at 937,000. We reduced that to a percentage by 98%, assuming like if people conserve water in the next year, we want to make sure that our metered rates keep up with any conserved water. So we reduced that down to 98% of usage. Then we also add in the total number of fixed fees that we have. So we have 429 fixed fees coming in for residential. So basically accounts, 74 accounts for commercial, and 3 for school. Yep. Then we make a bit of an adjustment for determining, percentage of adjustment for water rates to offset fire protection allocation to the school. So we always increase the school rate by 5%, but we allocate that reduction between residential and commercial, and we do that based on their percentage. So 65% of that goes to residential and 34% goes to commercial based on their gallons used in the last 12 months. So the residential rates come down a little bit from 61.9% to 58%. Commercial and government comes down from 30% to, or 31 to 30. And then the school increases from 6.1 to 11.1. And that's because the school doesn't pay in on property tax for the fire protection. So it's a way to allocate to them. So once we have the percentages, we look at the total revenue to be raised from core users is $352,000. Then 58% of that is going to come from residential. And then we just use a formula to go down from residential to commercial government to school. So all this totals the amount there. Then we carry that down into this section here where In residential, and these numbers have changed a little bit, but the idea between fixed rate and meter usage is we want to try to cover, a lot of our fixed costs with the fixed rate metered usage. Obviously, we're going to be billing usage as that comes in, but there could be some conservation, but usually not a lot. I think we've skewed towards 70-30 on residential because we want to, account for the people that maybe only have one person in the house versus the people that got a house full of kids. The users are going to pay a little bit more there. Commercial government, we went back and forth on this a couple of years ago, and we skewed a little bit more towards a fixed rate for them, as well as, but also still factoring in metered. And then school, we just split 50-50 between fixed rate and metered usage. So what that then gets us is that gets us our rates of, based on those percentages, 144.39 for the fixed rate for residential, 15.52 for metered. And then we always keep last year's here. So you can see that with this, the metered usage or the fixed rate goes up by about 10%. The metered usage goes up about 7.6%. In general, water rates are going up because the budget went up. In general, sewer rates are going down because as you look at the budget for sewer rates, we went from 920 down to 845. So that's where, in general, once we run through all the above calculations, these are coming down. That does sort of get to the next question, though, of do we want a decrease in sewer knowing what's on the horizon, or do we want to keep that up, keep that higher, and keep it at least flat and put that money back into a reserve account that will help us in future years to, that money will be there to help pay down that loan. So I probably ran through that a little too quick, maybe, but okay, great.
Makes sense.
So that's where we're at. I'll stop here for questions.
Yeah, we're gonna need money. So I'm not sure that it makes sense to lower rates at this point.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's just seems prudent.
The rate of increase that we're anticipating to pay for the sewer improvements, how does that nest into here to, because we're coming down a little bit and we're going to go up. What is that number look like?
So if this was to get integrated into the charts we were looking at earlier,
Well, I think it may actually be in our meeting notes tonight, but I'd have to.
What you're asking is what's that first year of that
Right.
chart look like?
What was the rate increase that we settled on? Pick one of the.
So we're gonna go
One of the
to
scenarios.
looking at like the base model here.
Right.
Right.
base model.
So right now we were looking at, let me just zoom in a little bit. There you go. So sewer user rate increase, we were looking at, well, 10% FY27, which we're not really getting to with these rates. But yeah, I mean, based on these projections, it was 10% over the next 3 years and then decreasing after that.
Right.
So I guess the question is, if we don't go up, does that mean that instead of 10%, we can do 9.5% or 9% or?
No, I just putting it in context so that if we sort of store our acorns for winter here and leave the rate level and put that money into account, could we buy that 10% down a little bit?
I think it would be a little bit, but I think the major thing is you wouldn't see like a huge jump, right?
Right, to do that whole leap in one shot.
Yeah, because that's my concern. If they go down, then it's going to be that much more of an up.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah, I think I just said it in a slightly different way. Same basic idea.
Okay.
So, I mean, we could play with them in the meeting, but if the general idea is like, yeah, let's try to like level fund rates as much as we can.
Right.
for the next meeting, I can go in and play with the rates a little bit to say, okay, here's where that revenue would be. Here's some outcomes, maybe come back with a couple options, either level funding and maybe try to get it where they go up a little bit. And then that money would all go right into the reserve account, and I can add that into the budget as well. And that way it gives you guys a couple options at the next meeting.
Okay.
If that
I
works
think-
for you guys.
I think
Yeah, I'm interested in it. I taking stock of what Steve said earlier about people chafing at us piling up cash, but we know we've got a big purchase coming.
We do, and it's not, I mean, it's not going anywhere.
Right.
Like the money's still
No.
gonna be there. It's gonna
Right.
be sitting in our reserve. Because yeah, they would definitely chafe at us when, next year we had a 20% increase rather than. 10%.
Yeah, that would, I mean, I think I'm with you where if we decrease this year and then we go 10% to get to where we are, and then another 10% on top of that, that's a little,
Feels like 2 steps back, 1 step forward.
I mean, I've heard Bard say, I mean, I'm not speaking for him, but he said, he has a place in Burlington and 100% increase.
Oh, don't talk to me about Burlington.
And I'm not looking to do that, but
I had a tenant let his toilet run for a month and I got an $800 bill for that.
Oh my God.
Just from a
Toilet.
slowly leaking toilet.
Wow.
and you didn't get a call from your water department?
No.
There you go.
Yeah, but they have an online, portal like we're trying to get working.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to have that stuff working because,
Right. No,
if you're keeping an eye on things, that it should have never gone that long. I'm like, why didn't you guys call me?
So we would, not only would we not go down, but we would in effect have increases anyway for operating cost and the user fee.
In a different scenario for FY 27.
Yeah.
You could look at both, right? So let's see, let me go back to the budget here. So what we would do is let's rate. Oh, there we go.
The budget.
Right, so I think, what did I say the difference is? About $75,000, right? So what we would effectively do is say, okay, if we added in to the wastewater capital reserve, instead of that at 10,000,
Right,
let's say we made that 85,000,
right.
right? And then we would increase the user revenue from 319,
Add 75 to it.
add 75 to that, so we're at what, like
85, 95, 94, 794, 3, 94, 794. No,
no, wait, 319 plus 75
sorry.
would be, I should just be able to do that.
Yeah, 394, 785, right?
yes,
394, 785. Okay, so that should get us to, that should zero us out then, if we did the numbers right.
Right.
So now what that would do is we'd be at 920, 785. So if we go into rates, nope, keep going to the wrong one. So we'd be slightly more, but 920, 785. Let me see, I think, yeah, this gets, I got a few circular references in here, so this gets a little funky here. 252.38. Bear with me, I'm like, well, because they're all circular references, so if I don't do it this
Right.
way, and it's weird, I have to go through it. Once I get it twice, everything matches. I can't tell you the exact reason why, but my goal here is to make these numbers 523 match, 252 match, 227 match. So I don't think there's anything else I need to adjust here. So if we do that, then that gets our rates. And again, they vary a little bit because of usage from the past and maybe some other revenues went down. But that gets us, we're at right around 1 to 2 for most of the rates if we try to level fund the budget.
No increases.
Yeah, they're like,
Yeah, but that's below the nominal rate of
Yeah.
inflation.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, anything sub.
Everything in that 2 to 3, 1 to 3 range is
Right.
pretty good.
That's background growth.
Yeah, and that's probably about where we more need to be considering what's coming down the pipe.
Right.
I mean, if we didn't have those things, I'd say, yeah, let's take our savings from there was mostly the operator. I think we lost a loan this year. Those are the two
Right.
big decreases,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But we might as well keep that coming because we're going to
We're
need
gonna
it.
be spending it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And then what we would do is, so then that money then ends up going straight into the reserve. So it would just flow right into this reserve. Wastewater capital would just continue to go up.
Right.
And as we get loans, we continue to pay out of that.
Actually, we won't put all of that 75 where you put it.
Okay,
I've got a letter today from our polymer company.
yeah, so we're gonna need more money there.
Yeah,
Well, that's,
they assured us there were no rate increases due to the war. Chemical prices, they can't control it.
Right.
so.
Their chemical prices are raising anywhere from 8 to 10%. And they're as of May 1st, they're a fuel surcharge of 5.1%.
Wow.
All right, so then we need to increase our biosolids chemicals from
Yeah.
60,000. So for the next iteration of the budget, let's you and me figure out what.
Yeah, I just got that letter today,
No,
and
sure.
it takes effect May 1st. So
All right,
we have an order that's coming Thursday.
Okay.
So that $12,000 order is not increased,
okay.
but
Okay.
anything going forward will be.
Okay.
So yeah, we can add that to that, and then what we'll try to do for the next iteration is keep this as like pretty much level, the $920,000.
Yeah.
We'll keep that level.
Yeah.
We'll make the increase that Steve talked about, and then we'll add anything else to the capital reserve. And we'll see what that does for our rates, but this is, I think, unless I mess something up, that this should be about what it looks like. I don't think I skipped any steps, but
Mhm.
sometimes in the meeting, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, there's another small thing. So I'll take a little more time with it, but
Yeah.
we should be pretty close.
We'll get together on that.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Steve.
All right, David's pretty quiet up there, just making sure, all right?
David.
He's holding back.
David.
He's happy.
He's seen this 10 times.
Yeah.
Over the years. All right.
Septage rate.
Yeah,
Yeah, I really haven't been able to delve into it too much. We are not the lowest, we are low. I still think we should talk about increasing with, cost of living.
Yeah.
At least a minimum, we typically, you guys, the water board has, done it in half-cent increments. I really think we need to at least minimal going forward, at least the cost of living every year.
Yeah.
Added on. I mean, it's just, inevitable right now with the cost of everything else going up.
Well, that's just consistent with everybody's goal to try to leverage that outside income as much as possible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if a 1 cent increase would pretty much bring you to parity with the state average.
Mhm.
I mean, we've been averaging for the month of April, we've been averaging pretty close to 30,000 gallons a day.
And that's the goal we have set
Yeah.
in the modeling right now.
Oops, right.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously it drops off in the winter, but we've been pretty close to 30,000 a day.
We're at 8.5 cents a gallon.
Eight.
Right.
Eight.
Makes sense. Yeah.
We're at 8 and the state average is This is 0.089.
I think the last time we increased it was what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, that's what we found when we looked it up.
So we want to start looking at just increasing it by inflation every year.
And I will say that, you know, the haulers are really seeing a pinch in the amount of money that is laid out in travel time and stuff, and they're really trying to pinch their pennies on making it more efficient to where they're going, but they're still coming to us. I mean, Working Dog is our second biggest. They come from the Fairfax area because nobody else. I mean, Milton is full, Essex is full, or they don't have space or aren't taken, so they come to us. Working Dog religiously brings, 10 to 12,000 a day. That will go away this week. They are the only company that land the spreads. Still.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
But that being said, they've had 2 years now where they've had trouble getting permission to land apply because of their test wells monitoring and stuff. So they're talking about maybe not doing that next year. That the price of being able to land apply is now outranked the price of just having a place to dump.
Yeah, I mean, you got equipment expense, so the spreader and
They've got 2 spreaders, they've got a frac tank. I mean, that outlay they've already invested in, but it's in theory, they should have been able to start spreading on the 15th. Last year, it was the 1st of May because the state held them up on monitoring well, testing for PFAS. And now they did it again on a different well. And then they told them that going forward, their renewal costs were going to be really what was going to put them out of the price range, the new price of doing business. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Update on Zenner customer online water usage accounts. Have you already answered that?
Much, I think, unless Josh wants to reiterate his frustration.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I guess there's 2 things, is what Steve talked about with what he's seeing on the meters for the raw data, and then what I'm seeing on the online accounts. The timing of it still seems to be off for the time of day. And Daniel said, oh, we'll go into the settings and adjust it for Eastern time and daylight savings, which seems weird that we have to do that, but I did that. And then that adjusted us, everything looked normal from January through now, but you look at November, December, usage skewed to start at 3 a.m. rather than like 8. So I'm not sure why those months in 2025 are calibrated differently than 2026.
Right.
So I'm still trying to ask them. I mean, eventually, let's wait a month and a half, it'll correct itself because November, December will fall off.
Right.
But that's not really a satisfying answer as far as why is it making it.
People look back, yeah, they will.
Well, you can't. In the portal, it only goes back 6 months.
Right.
But I want to know why isn't it just consistent data?
Right.
Like that's what driving me.
And the weird thing is, I finally got Josh to look at the data that I look at,
Yours is accurate.
and that's accurate.
The timing?
The timing was accurate, and they're supposed to take that data and put it in the portal. Now, how does it get skewed if it's a simple transfer?
Yeah, and it's weird that I have control over what time zone I'm in. You think that would just be like automatic in today's
Yeah.
day? I mean, I fly to California, my phone update.
Yeah.
Fly anywhere it updates.
But I get it. I mean, I don't know. Not all technology is the same
Yeah.
or as easy, but it is what it is.
if you're going to get widespread adoption from end users, though, you kind of have one chance to make a first impression.
Right.
Well, the first impressions.
We've tried 15 times
It
now.
works. You're like, this is great. I'm so happy to have this information. But
Yeah,
so
we keep. I think I send a weekly email with,
Yeah.
hey, it's still not working.
I send daily ones.
Yeah. So we keep trying to pick away at it.
Sort of that old, David had, oh, that's right. David.
My guess is there are probably two different software packages that don't quite interface with each other. So Steve, the one that you're looking at is data driven, but Josh, the one you're looking at goes through a program interface and they don't quite interface.
Yeah, something doesn't mean.
Well, and Noah did tell us that I think they're upgrading the one that you use to
Which I'm fearing.
well, but the idea is once they upgrade the raw data, it's going to be able to match better with what's online. So they're in process of that, at least when I talked to Noah about a month or so ago. So
it is getting better on my end, but it is a slow and very painful process.
we keep plugging at it. It's better than it was 2 months ago when we started looking at this some more depth.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Discussion of engaging with MGT, Marjorie Taylor Green.
No, not that.
MGT to examine the pay grid with a focus on department heads.
Yeah, so just for a little history, back in 2022, we worked with GovHR, which is a company, they're out of the Midwest. They do a lot of municipal work to look at our pay grid as a whole, and that spanned all departments except for the unionized police department. They looked at all staff. It was a fairly comprehensive survey. I think it was like $20,000 or $25,000 that we paid to have that done for the entire town. We keep up on that every year by increasing the pay grade by CPI. But what I've started to notice in the last, I guess, few months is as you look at department heads and then the second in charge, once you start to factor in overtime for the second in charge, they're bumping right up against, and in some cases, a little bit over the department head. So I reached out to MGT, and MGT is a company that bought GovHR, so it's still some of the same reps that I've dealt with, to ask them, what could we do to look at this? So I had a preliminary conversation with them last week. They said it'd be about, what did they say, $4,500 to look at our comparable towns, to look at those again, to see where they're at, and then look internally to see where the parity is internally and what might need to be adjusted. And then they would come back with suggestions on here's what needs to change, here's what shouldn't change. So I'm going to go to the select board with the same request next week when they have their meeting. If there was a charge to water sewer, I think there's like 9 department heads, so it'd be like 1/9 of the cost. So $400 or $500 probably.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I have to say, since taking on this role, how impressed I am with the level of dedication coming from our department heads across the board, speaking as a select board member. And I think our lesson from the police department is you don't want to wake up one day and just be way out of whack with the market, or you start losing good people. And you know, I'd hate to have you go to Williston or South Burlington.
I'm not. I mean,
You understand.
You might go back to dairy farming, but
Yeah, well,
but
that's
no, I
another
agree
story.
with you. I
But
agree.
yeah, no, I think it's a good management practice, a best management practice, to make sure you know where you are in the labor market
Right.
all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, people will suffer unhappily without saying anything to
Right.
you. They don't come to you until they're ready to quit. So, you know,
We don't want that, do we?
we don't want that.
I agree. Okay.
all right.
Thanks. Wow, we got through everything. We did it within our time allotment.
we did.
We're just lucky there were no select board meetings
Which
tonight.
was from 5 p.m. till whenever.
I just want to note for David, given the perspective of the camera,
Yeah.
that fork looks like a yard rake.
Yeah, it does.
That's very big.
Like you're in a fish show at the theater.
Yeah. Right.
Not that that's official
Was-
business, but Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Okay, do I have a second?
This is David. I'll second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Greg, aye.
David, I.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
we-
everyone.
We didn't do our next agenda, though.
Oh, shoot. We did. Well,
No, it wasn't written down here, so I didn't say it.
it was, what was that?
That's on the original.
Was on the,
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, I'm sure we'll find plenty of things.
Do we have enough people to sign the warrants today or?
Both of you can sign and I'll get, David, do you want to stop by the office and sign? Or you want me to send you a DocuSign?
I'll stop by and sign.
All right, I'll give them to Suzanne probably because I am sort of in and out tomorrow with my kids being home from break. So you may or may not catch me tomorrow in the office.
Okay, I'll swing by after work.
All right, thank you.
Okay, great.